Yeah, it's the conquest crew. We coming for you, your friends too. They thought that we never knew. It's the conquest crew. We coming for you, your friends too. Tell me what you gonna do. It's the conquest crew. We coming for you, your friends too. They thought that we never knew. It's the conquest crew. We coming for you, your friends too. Tell me what you gonna do.
In the land of the beast, we are found in the streets. Misguided, we eat that freedom's in the mark of the beast. Destroys my soul to know that all we seeking is peace. Tell Jah we seek, we destined to remain as the least. Perception of realities, pollution can often cause confusion until the Father reveals a world of illusion designed to trap the mind behind bars. Will rise from graves when we know who we are.
Just another day in the West, living up the more for the less. Yes. The people who deserve the very least are the people with the most. Yes. Just another day in the West, living for the babe and the press. Yes. And still the people who the least are the people with the most.
When will the Father come, raising us all out of the ghetto slums, teaching us that our lives are the sum total of thoughts, doctrine implemented with force, whipping a horse, which were tools of the trade in Holocaust days. Look at the many ways the media attack us. They have you thinking our occupation is carjackers, international drug trafficking, gun clappers, as if it's always the way that we were. Tragedies occur when there's new laws feeding the bellies of rich, taking food from the poor people's table. The average individual unstable, desiring change but powerless, believing they ain't able to make a difference, buying into the system, the same that they built that's not grown up to diss them. Marley said the truth would offend, therefore I take refuge in Allah against the guises of men.
Just another day in the West, living up the more for the less. Yes. The people who deserve the very least are the people with the most. Yes. Just another day in the West, praying for the babe and the press. Yes. And still the people who the least are the people with the most.
Well, I'll be rocking enemies overseas like the breeze of the Socrates of rich melodies. And if you take away the keys, singers and MCs ain't nothing but cheese on the shelf for a reason. While we ain't ready for war every season with the big belly Babylon treason. In these days where the least are the rebels and the poor never ever get to be the chosen.
Just another day in the West, living up the more for the less. Yes. The people who deserve the very least are the people with the most. Yes. It's just another day in the West, praying for the babe and the press. Yes. And still the people who the least are the people with the most. It's just another day in the West, living up the more for the less. Yes. The people who deserve the very least are the people with the most. Yes. It's just another day in the West, praying for the babe and the press. Yes. And still the people who the least are the people with the most.
Yeah, it's the conquest crew. We coming for you, your friends too. They thought that we never knew. It's the conquest crew. We coming for you, your friends too. Tell me what you gonna do. It's the conquest crew. We coming for you, your friends too. They thought that we never knew. It's the conquest crew. We coming for you, your friends too. Tell me what you gonna do.
Good evening, y'all. How's everyone doing? Welcome to a special evening. I hope everyone's good, and I hope everyone's well. Had a good week, and looking forward to a special Friday tonight. So, who do we have in the house? Let's see who we have. We have Ade. Long time no see, Ade. Elegna, Glennis, Micheal, Millie, Alida, and Wilma. Wilma, how you doing? Now that is a surprise because normally we don't see you, Wilma, but Wilma, really good to see you in the house. So I hope everyone's had a real good week. How's your week been? I see that we have someone who's just jumped up on screen. This is Nathaniel. Interesting. I think Nathaniel's a bit keen because he's going to be one of our guests earlier on, so I'm not quite sure. I think he was just getting a bit excited and overzealous. But really good to see you, Ade. It's been a while. It's been a long time. I was thinking about you this week, actually. And here you are showing up. So really good to see you. Okay, so for those of you who have been following, we have had some really amazing sessions over the last few weeks, but now we're going to take a slight break. And the break is really based on and around a showcase. And I'll tell you how it came about. I've been thinking over the last couple of years, when I reflect back at some of the people who have come through the Grow Personal Success Mentoring Program, I'm really kind of filled with awe in terms of some of the things that I've experienced with these individuals. You know, I say to people that I am blessed because I get front row seats to do this journey and watch the transformation with all of the people that go on and take the Grow Personal Success 12-week program. And so today I wanted to showcase, and we will be showcasing guests who have done and been through that transformational journey, just so that you could have an experience and get an insight. So for those of you who are new, this evening, when I talk about GPS, I'm talking about my book, The Grow Personal Success System, which I now am recoining as the Grow Personal Success Thinking System, because it introduces the concept and the idea of thinking based on a system, not based on emotion, but based on a system. And as a result of that, having written the book, I then found myself putting on some events, and from the events, people wanted to find out more about the whole concept. And so I found myself running mentoring programs, and those programs have refined, and over time they've blossomed. And I say that because of the people that it's allowed me to engage with. And as I said, over the next few weeks, you're going to be hearing from some of those people. So tonight we have a special treat. For me, this is really special because I have two guests for you. And along the journey, we don't seem to have very many guys. You know, I think it's somewhere in the region of 90% of the people that I find I'm working with are females. I ain't complaining, but I'm just saying. And so it's really cool today that we have two individuals who are guys that I'm going to be interviewing. And, you know, one of them is I actually met over 20 years ago. And that's relevant because it demonstrates how long I've been doing this. But in particular, this gentleman was certainly played an inspirational part in me asking the question, how can you want to empower someone and you want to support them, but they take themselves away out of the opportunity because they've got stuff going on in their mind? So he was really quite inspirational in terms of helping me focus on that question and deciding that I wanted to get an answer to it. And so, we've retained our friendship and we've always stayed in touch because it's like family. But then 20 years later, an opportunity arises where I invite him, I give him an invitation to take the mind reset, and he does. And the most incredible journey really begins. And so, you know, as a result of that experience and what we encountered, I thought it was only right that we share some of those with you this evening. And Natty, many of you know, he's my right-hand young man now, my protege in many respects, my adopted son. And it's a case of really hearing from a younger person's point of view how there really is a magic when we learn how to adopt this Grow Personal Success thinking system, i.e. giving focus to how we think And as a result of that, giving care and attention to nurture a different way of thinking, because as they say, change your thinking and you change your life. And it is so true. So how do we change our thinking is the question. And that's what I believe you're going to get some insight into that this evening. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it. So we're just going to roll this evening. It's just going to go on and we're just going to have a great time. At the end of each guest, we'll allow you an opportunity to ask some questions before we bring the next. And then, we're just going to have a great time. So have your questions ready and let's gain some insight. Let's have some fun. And with that, let me invite Micheal Oni to the panel so that we can begin to chop it up, as they say. All right. So Oni, Micheal Oni. So his street name is Oni, but his full name is Micheal Oni, just in case you're wondering like what's going on there. So are you in the house, my man? Are we good? You're on mute, so it sounds like you're not ready. You good? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How you doing, my man?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Real good. Well, we get to do this again. This is becoming a bit of a pattern here, but this tonight, I think you're going to drop some gems on people because you've just recently finished the Grow Personal Success program.
Yeah.
Less than 4 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you want to? I thought you'd done all of that, man.
No, it's a loose one. I feel a bit cold, so.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. Well, we don't want you to feel cold. We want you to feel real cool in the company
of
the family. So less than 4 weeks ago, you finished. And I must say it was one of the most amazing 12-week journeys to watch. And so hence it's interesting that I was saying to you just yesterday when we were talking that 20 or so years ago, here you were, the first young man that I took under my wing as a student, as it were, to sort of nurture. And then here we are 20 years later, and we're doing it again. But this time, it's like the universe wanted to really make it impactful. Would you say?
Definitely.
Yeah. So I want to get right into it just by asking a little bit of your background, the background story before we actually hooked up. So here you were, 20 something, some 20 odd years ago, and you were trying to get into the music game, right?
Yeah. So I was in music already. So I was like in a group, and the group we split up obviously after a while because the direction wasn't quite going the way we wanted it to go. And so, but I still wanted to be in the music industry. So, but I had been learning because one of my music mentors at the time, a young guy called Micheal Lord, was saying to me that I always had to read to understand how the music industry. So I was reading, I was buying magazines and music books and stuff like that. So when the group broke up and we didn't have a manager or a mentor at that point, I then thought, you know what, I need to find somebody who is in the music industry who I can work with, who I wanted to work for. Because I'd been reading about, the guys like Diddy and stuff like that, and how they went to Andre Harrell, and that's how they got their opportunity. So I was basically thinking of the same way, like, who can I find that I can work with or I can work for, who I can nurture my skills and talents under. And at that point, it wasn't so much even going back into the music. I wanted to get more into the business side of the music. I wanted to get more into the marketing side, into the promotion side of music at that point. And then I was speaking to your brother, who's a good friend of mine, and he was then telling me about what you do, Singers Paradise. And I was like, okay.
The Singers Paradise was a showcase that we used to do back in the day in central London. And it was a showcase for up and coming talent, singers, songwriters, musicians, and comedians. And so one day you came along and then we hooked up, you got introduced, and then the journey began. and I think we got on really well. So it was like, okay, you told me, I could see that you were keen, you were hungry, and so we started. I said, okay, come work with me, and the journey began, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was really excited because it was really what I wanted to do at that point. I wanted to do street promotions because everything was about street promotions at that time. It was about flyers, and that's how you got to talk to girls, because you have a reason to talk to women now, innit? Because you're giving them a flyer and all of that. You're not just approaching them. And it's like, okay, cool. So I was excited about it, and and we you had the other aspect as well, where you was making me make money, in the sense where I had tickets to sell. So I'd have like hundreds or 50s of tickets just to sell, and so that was always a good, that was a good part. So I was like, wow, this is good. I like this, and yeah. So from that point, when I saw that there was that opportunity there, I thought, yeah, this is somebody I need to be close with. This is somebody I want to work around, and this is somebody I want to learn from.
And so, and what's really good about what you said there, and I'm saying, and we're sharing this because we just want to drop some insights and some notes for people. One, it speaks about setting an intention. So before we met, you had a really strong desire and intention to find someone that could, to nurture you, nurture your skills and your talents. And so as a result of that, call it by the laws of attraction or what you will, we were able to meet, and the opportunity was created. But it also speaks about understanding that mentorship and coaching, as we now know, is much more common than it was 20 odd years ago. I mean, you didn't know it, we didn't know it by that name.
No.
Just realized that you wanted to have someone that you could roll with, someone that you could work with, someone who could show you things. And so the question I want to pose to everyone is, do you or have you identified the areas that you want to excel in? And have you made the decision that you want to find someone who is further along than where you are, and who can guide you, someone you know and like and trust? Because we're now seeing that it is actually a blueprint. It's a blueprint that works. As you said, Oni, it works in the music industry and has always done. You find someone who's where you want to be, and you get involved, or you find a way to work under them. And when I say under them, I mean learn from them. Puffy, many people don't realize, did exactly the same thing. I believe he used to drive the equivalent of like from London to Birmingham every day as an intern and not get paid, simply because he'd identified that the record company that he wanted to work with, there was no other record company, and that was the one. And even if they weren't going to pay him, he was like, listen, I'll come and I'll just do stuff for free. And then of course his opportunity came and he seized it with both hands, and the rest is history. So we started working, and many things, I mean, we were able to do some great work. The album, the song that you heard, ladies and gentlemen, from Roots Conquest, that was part of an album, one of 3 albums that we put together. Here's a cover from another one of Urban Voice. And so you were my right, you grew to become my right-hand man in that regard, someone that I could trust to get things done. And here's another point, ladies and gentlemen, that you see many people are looking to get to do and be successful in business, wanting to work for someone, not realizing that in business, actually, people who own businesses and run companies are not looking primarily for workers. They're looking for people who they can trust. Would you say, Oni?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Because even when it came to the album, I never told you this before, but I didn't know you was going to give me that assignment. I thought you may go for somebody that had more experience in the industry to deliver the album, because it was a big project.
Yes. Okay. So it made you feel like, wow.
Yeah, but I wanted to do it, but I was like, oh, I don't know if he sees if I'm able, if he sees that I can do it, or so I was just kind of humbled. And then when you called me and you said to me, right, we've got the album, we're gonna do it. I want you involved. you know, this is the assignment. Can you do it? I was like, yeah, of course I can do it.
Well, you know, the thing is, even if you had doubt, you said yes, right?
Yeah, I knew I had to do it because that was,
An opportunity like that doesn't come.
yeah, you know what I mean? So,
And again, it speaks of how we should be. Once you found a space that allows you to blossom, then one of my mentors taught me that just say yes and figure out how to do it afterwards, you know?
yeah.
And so you did that. And that was a great project. We went up and down the country. Really, what were we about? Our intent was, and the reason why I gave you the project is because over the 20 odd years that I've been working in terms of the music aspect of things, you were one of the few people in that industry that I found had a real genuine love for people. You know, it's a shady business in many respects, and you had that real desire. So we went up and down the country. We did all kinds of stuff, right? You know, in terms of working with people, supporting young people who were passionate about their dreams and their aspirations. And that's really when I first got the realization that actually, if you can help people find their juice, what, you know, their gifts and their talents, the things that they're passionate about, and then find a way to package that into a business, that's when you can see people really excel. And that's what we began to do, right?
Yeah.
But where you're concerned, there was always for me, there was that issue in terms of, even though you were excelling, I noticed that there was some kind of blockages that you were experiencing. We couldn't quite put our finger on it, but we used to talk about it every now and again. Yeah. And so when we ran these projects and Urban Voice ran its course and came to its natural conclusion, which was, I realized that even when you invest in people and give people things for free, they don't really appreciate it.
Mm.
And we experienced that many a time, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of, well, in terms of people not appreciating the hard work that you've been putting in, that I was putting in.
Yeah.
And so there came a point when you went on to do other work, as I decided that I didn't want to use that model in terms of going for funding
Yeah.
to then run our programs. So you went on to do other things and I went on to do other things. But we obviously stayed in contact. So I want to kind of fast forward, because then you were doing your own thing. And then we connected last year. And that was when I invited you to participate in the Mind Reset course, which you did. And why did you? Because it seemed like a lot of things had gone on in your life leading up to that point and that decision where you said, right, I'm going to do this course.
So since I'd say 2017, a lot had gone on, you know, and we'll come up to that probably a bit later. But one of the things that had gone on is I tried to do something that resulted in me having a big debt, right? And
Okay. So you was trying to do some business
I was trying to do some business, yeah.
And it went pear-shaped.
And it went pear-shaped, you know. And when I spoke to you about it last year, and we were, because remember when I was trying to do the deal, I also consulted you, but I didn't listen to you when I was doing that deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put the consultation, and so I always say to people, you know, have your advisors, and then you either take their advice or you put it in the bin. And on this occasion, you chose to put my advice in the bin.
So, and then you know, it just all went pear-shaped, and the pressure of that was just weighing down on me because there was, you know, variables involved in it. And then obviously I met my partner, we have a child, and this issue was still there. And then, you know, it starts to wane on how you think. You have anxiety, you know, you're starting to get confused. You don't know what direction to do, because now you're trying to do things in desperation.
Wow.
And so many things were just, you know, it got to a point where I couldn't almost see clearly. I couldn't see no more. Like, what is going on? You
With
know
your
what?
life.
Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm trying to do things, you know, I'm doing them, but they're not quite working out the way I want it to work out. I noticed that I'm having thoughts, but I'm not having the right thoughts. I'm not figuring it out, you know, especially when it came to the debt situation. And obviously things start to, you know, can affect your relationship with your partner or with others.
So basically, it sounds like your world was falling apart.
Basically, yeah, and that's how I felt like it. So when I did have that conversation with you, I just came real with you, and I said, "Listen, I'm ready to just go back to how it was."
Back in the day, listen,
Back
I'm
in the
ready to
day.
be a student again.
Yeah, like let me just come and learn again, man. Because right now I just need refresh. I need to press the refresh button, and you know,
Okay. So we then said, okay, cool. And you signed up for the Mind Reset course, which is only 14 days,
yeah,
but almost immediately stuff started to happen.
yeah. Because then
What's
I
your
I
experience?
started to see, because the mind reset course, it makes you basically press the reset button on yourself because you're doing it. You have, you know, it forces you to challenge yourself and to just be real with yourself and be truthful with yourself. And
Would
when
you
I
say
started,
that, would you say that that was probably one of the most realist times of
yeah, for me, because I had to, you know, it's one thing hearing people talk to you, your missus might talk to you, your friend might talk to you, might talk, but when you're by yourself and you're asking yourself the question, how do you lie to yourself?
right? And not just asking yourself the question, but asking yourself specific questions
Yeah,
relating to particular areas of your life in terms of your emotional state, your
yeah,
mental
yeah,
state, and
yeah.
et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so from that point of view, how did you emerge in that 14-day period? Like, so we know how you went in, my life is falling apart. How did you begin to emerge after 14 days?
So after the 14 days, I realized that I ain't as close to God as I think I am.
Wow. Now that's really, I noticed that and I found that pretty amazing because we hadn't, we don't even talk about God in the Mind Reset course, but yet somehow through asking those questions for each of those areas, one of them being your, you know, looking at your spiritual life, and I guess that's what happened with you. When we're talking about spiritual life, we're usually just referring to your belief system, but your belief system usually then takes you down a path where you start asking those kind of questions, and you came out and the number one thing that you found was that you didn't have a relationship with the creator.
Yeah, not the one that I believed I had. You know, like you believe you have something, but you don't
Okay.
have it. You know what I'm saying? Like
It
you
wasn't
don't
God.
have it until you go deep and think, wow, you know what? I'm so far removed. And I know where that came from. That came from years of trying to explore different schools of thought. You know what I'm trying to say?
And
And
find yourself in no man's land.
then find yourself in no man's land. You know what I mean? And so that helped me realize that actually, you know, yeah, I need to get back to that source, and I need to find a way to communicate with that source in the way that, you know, is in the right way.
Okay.
But at that point I didn't know how to do it.
Okay. And so would you say that that inspired you? That was the main driver and inspiration behind you deciding to want to sign up for the 12-week Grow Personal Success program?
Yeah, it was definitely. And the other main thing was because I'm in a relationship, we've got a child, and I really wanted to turn up for my family. You know, I want to be the best partner, I want to be the best father, I want to be, you know, the best son, brother, and all these people in my life. And I felt like I was just shortchanging them because
Wow.
I
That's
weren't I weren't in the, you know what I mean? I wasn't the best me, basically.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
So,
I mean, so that's a big ask and a big task that you put on yourself. Like, I'm going to do this because I'm really serious about making a difference in my life. It needs to change.
mm,
And we began. And I just want you to touch base on just a few things. I mean, there was so many. And if you want to find out the whole story, we've actually done testimonial video, which is up on YouTube, and we'll give you the details later on, and you can check that out. And it's so long, it's so almost unbelievable. We've had to do part 1, part 2, and probably a part 3, but it would be true to say that each and every area of those 5 pillars were impacted in a significant and symbolic way, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's start off with would you like to share any in particular, in any particular order, just to give some people some examples? Because the purpose of this evening is really to communicate to those who might be sitting on the fence, that they might understand that we are, ladies and gentlemen, we're living in biblical times. I was not an avid reader of the Bible, but through my meditations, I was shown that there's certain things that we need to be looking at that will give us an insight into what's going on. And so that was something that was revealed to me in my meditations in January. So when my boy now comes and starts telling me that, I need to move closer to God. And I remember on one occasion, I was talking to you and you were carrying your Bible with you, like everywhere. I'm like, something's really going on. And so this is the reason why we're bringing this to you, ladies and gentlemen, so that you hopefully can glean that we all have to step up in terms of what we're doing, mentally, emotionally, and in all the other areas. So I don't want to take it away from you, but, sort of concisely, if you can you give us an example of some things that happened that are poignant for you and game changers?
So when we started it we started it on the 15th of December, 15th or 16th of December is when we started. And that first session we was talking about, thinking, what type of thoughts do we have? We went into what type of thoughts do we have, what is your thinking like? Do you have, the quality of your thinking? And it's like, wow, yeah, I never really even thought about the quality of thinking, because we all just think, or, we think we're thinking right. But how do you think right? And I've never really been asked that question before, you know what I mean? And so that was quite, if anybody's listening, I think that's quite an insightful question into yourself. Like, ask yourself, what type of thoughts do you have? Or, what is your thinking like?
Your thinking style. And I think you coined the phrase that I'd never heard of before, but I loved it, because you came away that, I think it was literally from that session, by the following session, you were like, I realized that for the last 20 years or so, perhaps, what I've been engaged in is thinking. I just love that phrase.
So my missus, she came up with that stinking thinking, and she put it on me one day, like, it's stinking thinking. I'm like, wow, stinking thinking, for real. It is like, I mean, it's, yeah.
And why I like it is because the analogy that we have is, obviously, if you have a friend and they have BO, we know that it's not cool, and someone who really cares will kind of let you know.
Yeah,
most people won't tell you, though. They'll they just won't want to come around you, and you won't understand why, and it can lead to depression and all sorts of things. But what about your thinking? Imagine, because it's exactly the same thing. If you have stinking thinking, then you just won't understand why things won't be working out. And people will just leave you. They just won't come around you. But more important, opportunities will do the same thing, because life is all about vibration. And if you're vibrating at the stinking thinking level, that's all you're going to attract.
Yeah. Right. And, my missus, as you know, she is in the same realm in terms of what you do in terms of helping people, holistic thinking, all that. So she's vibrating at a certain level and I'm not.
So there's a problem right there.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you went there, because I want to try and pack in as much as we can. I mean, the time is just running, but we've got like 10 minutes to pack this in, so we're going to step it up. But one of the things that we also then experienced was, there was a session that you came in and you were almost broken, because that relationship, it almost crashed, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, what I mean, me and my missus, we, there was some, again, because of thinking, I allowed a certain situation to just
get out of control.
pollute, yeah, and just pollute our relationship in a way, you know what I mean? And it's like, and so my reaction to events that followed in the
Well,
last week of the year
yeah.
was based on my thinking, was based on how I was perceiving things, you know what I mean? And it's like, wow. And
Basically, again, you almost crashed and burnt the whole thing.
yeah, because of, you know, my attitude, my way of thinking,
And reacting
like,
to things.
yeah, and the way I was reacting to things. And
I want to just say, I just want to interject because
Hmm.
I really appreciate the openness here. Yeah, you know, we go way back, and you're being open like this is something that we don't do in our community in particular, especially as brothers. So I really want to celebrate and congratulate you for, and thank you for being so open, because so many of us have that situation occur. And that's why we're bringing it up, in as much as based on stinking thinking, particularly if you're coming from that male energetic place, everybody thinks they're right. There's no reconciliation, and that one issue and everyone deciding to react could then create something that is unreconcilable. And so, but fortunately, we were in the middle of sessions, and so you were able to bring it to me, and you were broken at the time, but we were able to talk you through. And what I love about that, and I want to bring up, is the fact that because you had made that commitment to say, right, I'm in student mode, yeah, I don't know it all, I'm going to be open, so show me. You came to that session complaining, you know, ready to put the blame on your missus, and I was able to show you in a moment that no, it's actually not her, it's you,
yeah,
and break it down.
yeah,
And at first you was in shock because you didn't see it that way, but that's the power of a mentor and a coach. And what I loved about that was, by the end of the session, you had recognized your error, called your missus into the session, and the reconciliation spirit had begun before even the session had ended. Is that right?
yeah, yeah.
And now you like, you guys are like, you just starting all over again. That love thing, right?
Everything definitely, yeah. I mean,
No,
that was
everything.
the beginning of, you know, in terms of where we are now. That was the beginning of it, you know. And
So
yeah,
I mean, let's just make it quite clear, because there's no point being here if we're not going to be really enabling people to understand. That day when you came, you thought it was the beginning of the end.
yeah, you know, that day, yeah, because we were still, yeah, it was still
It was
very,
that serious.
yeah, you know what I mean. And
And within an hour and a half, what you're saying is that that day, that session, which seemed at the beginning to be the beginning of the end, ended by being
the start of a new beginning.
the start of a new beginning,
Yeah, yeah,
and one that you're enjoying,
yeah,
because you both now are vibrating on that closer frequency, able to experience things that you didn't have the capacity to do in times previous. Would that be true? I'm trying
yeah,
to pack
yeah,
it.
definitely. Because it's like this: if you're in a relationship with someone and somebody's floating in the sky and you ain't floating in the sky, well, guess what? Naturally, you have to go that way, isn't it? You can't.
Absolutely.
Someone's got, you either go with them or you pull them down. And if
Right.
that person's saying, "I don't want to come down, I'm going up," yeah. So you got to decide: are you coming up, or you're staying there, or you're floating? You're gonna do your own thing over there.
Wow.
You know what I
That's
mean? And you know, and I love my missus. She's a brilliant person. You know, she's understanding. She's there for me. And
however, with
mm,
stinking thinking, you
yeah,
could see it.
yeah, I couldn't. I see till that point. Yeah, as I said, I couldn't see it. And and the reason why I'm saying that, you know, she was patient, because another person or another,
Should have gone a long time.
you're right, they just say, "Ah, later, man, I'm over," because you're doing that thing, in it. Cool, go and do that thing or whatever. So, you know, when you have somebody that's patient, but you know, it's all about love, innit? In terms of what we preach, it's all about love. So yeah, that's thinking had to go, and yeah, it just had to.
And of course, because I was able to break it down, and obviously because of our friendship and relationship, you would hear me, it made you see and appreciate your missus all the more, because then in a moment you realize that, damn, like this woman's been saying this all along, and I've been doing stinking thinking, and she's been patient. So you kind of fell in love with her all over again, right?
Yeah, no, she's boom.
Okay, so I mean that's great. The other thing, I'm trying to pack it in. We've got about 5 minutes before we bring our young man on. But so we talked about your relationship with your most important and significant person, your missus, and I want to talk about your relationship with yourself, because your relationship with yourself, we recognize that the reason why these other areas were not working was because you weren't working, i.e., the most important relationship, the relationship with yourself, wasn't where it should have been. And we were able to identify that for reasons that you weren't even aware of, that were linked to your childhood, there were certain programs running in your mind that was just driving your thinking system in a certain way. Want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the growing up, there was a lot of things, but I'll mention one word. There was rejection, right? There's this word rejection in a lot of things, whether it was in education, certain relationships, family and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but,
we get you.
You know, but I was just brushing it off and, you know, carrying on with my life, but not understanding actually it's, you know, it goes deeper, because I've never challenged them. I've never looked at them and, you know, or why do I feel like it? Is it because of that? But I never really looked at that until we got to that stage in the course, and I was able to track back. And the question was like, you asked me like, you know, let's go back into your history, your background, you know, from where we was born to where I lived, and I mean,
and it's something you'd never done before, right?
I've never tracked it like that, you know what I mean?
And it's really amazing, because I do that with you know, everyone that does the GPS program, and it's amazing what you can identify. Obviously, I'm now sort of really accustomed to be able to listen and see the patterns and the threads that are in someone's life, and they won't even notice it, because they're busy doing me, or do you know what I mean? And when I was able to show you certain things, you were able to then connect the dots, but not only connect the dots, but I remember you getting into a zone where you were like almost living in the past for a moment, because certain things that had been happening to you in your past that you couldn't understand, you were like, oh, so that's why those things had been happening, right?
Definitely.
And of course, what that brought was a moment of clarity.
Yeah, because it's like somebody, you know, throwing an arrow in your back and you don't know it's in your back and you're just walking in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but all this time you're bleeding and you don't know that you're bleeding.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm carrying all of this around. And because as young black men, we're on the street, we're with everybody, everything's cool, everything's all right. Yeah, I'm cool, but no one asks you exactly what does that mean? You know what I mean? Like, we just go like kind of front, we just front it a little, you know, all the time. Oh, yeah, I'm cool. You're right, yeah, I'm cool. But you ain't really cool, because, and I can say that to anybody. Like, I know you ain't cool. I know you're saying that for the camera, or you're saying that for because we're all around, but we can go deeper and we'll find out you ain't even that cool.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of what happened.
Yeah. And then leading on from that, because I wanted to bring out these significant things to just demonstrate to people that from one decision and intent to want to grow your vision of personal success, how you were able to impact so many different areas of your life. And so the most important relationship next to your missus was that of your relationship with your son, who was not even 2 at the time. And you were able to identify that you were even doing stinking thinking with your son, engaging in a pattern that, if it hadn't been corrected, would have just carried on, and
Carry
then
on. Yeah,
when he gets into his teenage years, you find that the relationship between father and son would not have been as you would have liked. How was that
yeah.
when you came to that revelation and realization?
So it happened one night because he's coming up to 2, and he was crying, 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 and trying to appease him and show him love and cuddles and stuff like that. And he was just like, and he was doing all of this, and I didn't realize that at that time I was actually taking it personal. Like, why is he crying, right? But that there, when we got to the realization of why I was reacting like that, I then realized that actually I should be finding out what's happening with him, not be upset why he's crying. You know what I'm saying? Like, not be upset
And
because he's getting on, because I can't control him. So I'm now getting upset. But really, I should find out why he's, what's the problem? And I need to, as the dad, I need to get to the bottom of that. You know what I'm trying to say? But all of that was tied into this whole rejection thing and thinking that he's only 2. How can he reject me? He's not. But these is the mind state, the mindset, the thinking that you're thinking that, oh, what my son, what's wrong? You know what I mean? And then, you know, and you kind of you're taking the blame away from yourself and passing it on to him. It's not about that. You know what I mean? I've got to take the responsibility. And then once I came to that realization, as I said to you, from that day, the way I deal with my son is just completely
completely
different.
different. And that's just amazing. This is what I live to hear, these kind of stories. It's just truly amazing. So we talked about your relationships, we talked about your mental state, how that changed and improved. We talked about how your relationship with the Most High just went on a different level. I mean, you are just on fire now, like an evangelist, and to the point that you even brought one of your boys onto the Mind Reset program, who was literally on the verge of being made homeless, breakdown in the marriage, divorce papers literally served. It was going to break up a household of 3 lovely children, and break up the family. And based on what you had experienced, you was able to introduce this idea to him, and he came onto the Mind Reset course. And in 14 days, as a result of your intervention, that household is now still together. As I understand it, the divorce papers are ripped up. They have reached a new understanding, because in just 14 days, my guy was also able to become real with himself in a way that he'd never done so before.
Yeah, got clearer with himself, and
Wow.
that was the only thing I could. At that point, that was the only thing I could give him. I you know what I mean? I just
And you
like,
gave him a whole heap, man, because
you just need to go and kind of rework this thing, bruv. You know what I mean? Because where you are, I know it's not gonna work. And so, at first he was a bit like, I said, bruv, you need to do it.
wow.
Whatever. And then he was like, yeah, all right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna.
But isn't it interesting that that's what happens to many of us? We have to wait till our back is against the wall. Whereas what I'm wanting people to understand, or at least consider, that you should see this Mind Reset like how you do your MOT on your car. Like, guaranteed, it should be a regular thing, because you don't know what might be going off in your mindset. So, now we're doing this, I realize that we actually should have just planned out the session all for you. And maybe that's what we're going to have to do moving forward. But I want to touch base on, because it's really difficult to, in this short space of time, explain to people how your life is completely transformed. But you did start off by saying that this debt situation was just destroying your life in every sense. And because of a change, a transformation, something amazing happened within that 12 weeks time. Do you want to tell us what happened within that time period?
I give a short version. So basically, I'm just gonna keep it real. I had about 35 grand worth of debt that I got myself into, and I was just like, how do I sort this out, man? You know what I mean? And but I didn't realize, because of all the thing that was going on, I had all these blocks, so I couldn't receive anything. You know what I mean? Because of it's too much blockages. cut long story short, end of the 12 weeks, I'm out of the debt.
Wow. And that's as a result of clarity of thinking and being able to be creative and make things work, knowing that there's a solution. But I also, I mean, and that, let's just for a moment, let's just stop there, because that literally changed the world. That's changed the world. I mean, you popped up yesterday, you know, to pick up your award as a result of completing the course, and you turned up in a new whip. I'm like, what the hell is going on? R.I.C.H Society members are buying new cars and stuff. And it was great to see, because I could see that there was joy in your soul as a result of that. And not only that, you told me on one occasion, I think it was in the month of February, may I talk about you, when you confirmed that as a result of you, particularly being the man in the home, changing your vibration, it was not only that you were being a block to yourself, but you was being a block to your missus and what she was trying to do.
Yeah.
When you now shifted, you came and told me that in 1 month,
She was gone. She was, you know what I mean? She was flying. Like, her business was just skyrocketed, you know what I mean? And as I said, I know she's been working, but part of the, you know, you got to take responsibility for your part of things. So when she's trying to do something and it's not quite making what she knows it could be, so where's the problem then? Because she's doing everything she can do. And then when I started to vibrate, wow, she had a great month in her business, you know what I mean? One of the best months in her business ever.
because you were saying that in that 1 month, she was able to generate enough more business than she had generated the year previously. Like,
it was great for her, you know what I mean? It was just.
and when you told me that, I was like, just think about that for a moment. I was kind of reminded of when I was working with Chris, and he had that experience where, you know, he had just made amazing gains in terms of just changing our mindset. So here you are now, as a result of you vibrating on a different frequency and engaging, your missus is doing phenomenal in her business. Now everyone's happy, everyone's vibrating, because she can see the direct result of you now being committed to this change. Excuse me. And I just love that. So financially, boom, knocked it out of the park. Mentally and emotionally, you're operating on a different level. And now I understand that you and your missus are actually working together as CEOs, right? Like joint supporting, working together in business. So there's been a complete, total transformation in your lives. You're working and you're also experiencing more enjoyable moments, you know, as a family, because now you're both in sync.
Yeah.
And I loved, you know, the last session that we did. We're not going to show the clip because, like I said, I get front seats. But when we were doing our testimonial, you know, you brought your missus in on the scene, and she spoke about how she had found the whole experience, being the person that's, you know, in the space with you, and then you both sealed that session with a kiss. I thought to myself, wow, this is amazing, because this is what we want to see truly, right, in our communities. And what, imagine if it is just the mindset of both parties, unbeknown to them, operating in stinking thinking, that is the real problem, not the partner that they're always blaming.
That's right. Yeah. That's so as you said, it's the thinking system. And when I was able to start thinking differently, you just start seeing things differently. And the thinking is linked to your closeness with the Most High. Because if you're close with the Most High, you can't have stinking thinking, because now it's not gonna, you know what I mean, it's gonna have clean thinking.
Wow, that is so deep. So I hear you, and I'm gonna say, based on what I've seen with you and some of the other people that I've been blessed to be able to work with certainly over the last 24 months, I've come to realize that that's the kind of people, that you're the kind of people that I'm here for, that we're doing this work for. Those people that want to actually connect and find their purpose through connecting with the Most High. You know, I'm really, I have to say it like it is. That's really the people that I'm here for. Those who are devoted to wanting to find that, because when you find that, you find your purpose, and then you're able to be a blessing to others. So if that resonates with you, ladies and gentlemen, and you want to find that purpose that you know that you're called for, that you're destined for, that you were born for, then you're hearing what can happen as a result of making a commitment and a decision to take your life to the next level. And the mind reset is the best place to start. So before we bring in our young cat who's following in your footsteps, yeah, let's just have a little glimpse of your certificate. You drove all the way over to pick it up, and it's great that you have completed the course. We used to do these events as actual events, but we can't do that now. But wow, look at that. So that is to let you know that only on behalf of the whole company, the whole crew, we appreciate the commitment that you made to yourself in terms of growing personal success and changing your thinking so that you now have your own thinking system that enables you to have quality thoughts and be a blessing to others. So stick around. We're going to do some Q&As in a moment. I really feel like we should have had a session for each of you guys. I think that's going to have to be the order of the day. But so hang on tight. Meanwhile, I'm going to bring on my boy, Natty. Are you in the house? Or do I have to bring him on camera? Do I have to? I think I do. So let me see, Nathaniel. All right, he's putting his hand up. Okay. Let's see where you're at. Okay, so I think, is he showing up? I believe so.
He's there, but he's not. Your camera and that.
Okay, so Natty, if you,
Sure.
great stuff. So Oni, if you can come off camera for a moment, because I want the spotlight to be on this gentleman, and then I'll call you back and then we'll do Q&As in a moment. All right, so young man, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
We're really good, really good. So you've been listening into Michael Oni's story. So now the spotlight's on you, because this is the spotlight. This is the GPS showcase. So let's get straight in it, if we may. Yeah?
Yeah, sure.
Cool? You cool about it? Like, I know this is kind of hard for you, because it's not the kind of thing that you like to do, right?
No.
Okay. But you know the importance of doing this, and this is why you said yes to it.
Yes.
Okay. Well, no, like, don't make it sound like there's orders going on here. So the reason why I thought it would be good is because we came to meet when you were 17. And so I wanted to demonstrate that the Grow Personal Success thinking system is, well, you've heard Oni was in his 20s, but I believe that it works. The younger you are, the better it can be. And so I wanted to use your story to share your story, so that for those young cats who might be tuning in, they might be able to listen and hear and glean something from what's going, what we share. So here we are. We met, 8 years ago, coming up to 8 years ago now, right?
Yeah, I think it'll be 8 years in July.
Okay. So people will be wondering, like, what's a young guy like you doing rolling with a guy like me for 8 years? Like, that's a long time. So let's take it right back. So what was life like before we met? Because I know that you were in a point and at a place in your life where you were looking for something, right? Or
yeah. I didn't, well, I knew I wanted something from life, or to be something better than what I currently was, because I wasn't happy about my current situation. And when I say my current situation, I wasn't happy about, in hindsight, I wasn't happy about the way I perceived life, because I didn't enjoy being around myself, because I was very negative. I had what Oni calls stinking thinking, but I didn't know it was stinking thinking, because
but you had it on steroids, because you had some serious You had some serious depression bouts.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No, what?
But yeah, it's true. I had some serious
It's like we keep it real, right?
Pardon?
I said because we keep it real, right? Because
Yeah.
we're talking about that guy. That guy's dead. Like that's the old you. So we can talk about it, right? Or no?
Yeah.
Okay. And so I was like, so that was where you were coming from. And so you came to an event and you were introduced to me by the lovely Sarah, who's responsible for some very strategic things that have happened in my life. And you said you wanted me to mentor you, and I was like, nah.
You said no a few times actually.
Yeah, because I wasn't interested.
I think you walked away at one point as well, and I came back and found you.
Yeah, because I was like, no, like I've invested a lot of time in like decades into my community, and at that point in time I was just questioning a lot of things. What I realized then was that the missing thing was that I had not appreciated that it's a law of life that people have to invest in themselves. And what I had done for almost 20 years is I'd put on all of these programs, invested close to 2 million, and people hadn't participated in investing in themselves. So I was kind of like, no, I don't want any more wahala, with young people.
Yeah.
But you insisted, and then it was like, then I realized that something on a deeper level was going on, because here was a young man who, you were only 17 or so at the time, right?
Yeah.
And he was telling me, big man.
I was 16. I was turning 17 the next month.
So he was 16. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And here's this young boy telling this big man, I'm not taking no for an answer. I'm like, that audacity.
I don't remember if I said that, but I remember that I was convicted. Pardon?
You didn't say it, but the energy was there.
Oh,
and I picked up the energy, and that's when I looked at you differently. I'm like, okay, all right, you want this? Cool. So come to my office. And then you came, we sat in a meeting, you came to my office and you were late. And I'm like, see, this is why I don't want to do this stuff with these young pets, because they just don't know what time it is. So I had you waiting downstairs for 15 minutes. I came down, took you to the coffee shop, sat you down and said, it don't work like this. Like, that's not how I roll. So I'm gonna buy you a coffee, we have a chat, and then we say goodbye and you don't see me again. Or you understand that if you want me to mentor you, then you need to fix up. And it's about understanding that I'm gonna teach you, I'm gonna take you under my wing and I'm gonna teach you. And I was like, it's your call. And you decided, let's do this.
Yeah.
What made you make that decision? Because you had never been treated, or no one had really been that real to you in that way before.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, the reason why I didn't want to take no for an answer is because I was convicted. I was tired of living the way I was living, and I needed a change.
At 16? Okay, no, we've got a lot to get through. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, I was in a really dark place, but I'm like, there's something that I can find that would change the way I'm living. And then when I got a flyer of yours actually, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to this. So I said to my dad, I'm gonna go to this. It's gonna end at this time. I'm gonna be home at this time. He said, okay, fine. Make sure you're home on time. I was home late because I was talking to you, but that's not my business. I was willing to take whatever was coming home to get what I needed to get. So I remember I went to you, and it was Simon, and it was Chris. For some reason, I gravitated to you the most because I'm like, yeah, I need to talk to this guy. I can't remember exactly why. I don't remember what you said, but I think the way that you said what you were saying was why I was like, I need to talk to this guy. Which is why I was like, when I got it, because I had like a really, really bad interpersonal skills. So I was really shy. Like I'm 16 talking to
Of course.
Grown man, like.
So, but like I said, on an energetic level, because you didn't really say the right things, but on an energetic level, you conveyed to me, like, I'm serious. Although when I gave you the opportunity to demonstrate it, you messed up, but it's cool. And But when we had that conversation, that was like, you know, one-on-one. We had that conversation, and I'm like, you can take it or you can leave it. Makes no difference to me. You're cool. And you chose to say, right, I want to do this. And so you came up into the office. And by the end of the day, that first day, I'm like, see, I'm like, but I'm trying to give you work to do. And I'm like, young man, I can see that you're actually unemployable, but I'm going to work with you because you're here. And we laugh about it now. The reason why I said it was not as an insult, but to help you know and remind yourself, because here we are 8 years later, that you'll never forget that day, that was how you were perceived. You just didn't have value to add.
Yeah, there was.
That's not the case now.
Yeah, I remember it was September 9th. Yeah, I'm very bad at dates as well. So in fact, I remember, and I can't remember my own birthday sometimes.
Right.
Yeah, pinnacle point in my life.
And so for me, what I want ladies and gentlemen to see and realize is that how would our community be transformed if more of us were putting ourselves in positions where we're taking young cats under our wing? Now, I'm just putting it out there because that's my wish. I know that's my gift and that's my blessing and that's my ability to be able to do that. One, see talent in people, two, be able to take them under my wing, and then three, invest in them as a social investor to bring out that which is within them. And so this is what we began to do. And so I'd like you to just share some of the things, because it's been 8 years and it's been lots of ups and downs, and many a time when you've had to sit and think, do I need to stick around or do I need to bounce? And for me, I've looked at your story, and we recently read the book Think and Grow Rich. And I liken your journey to that book. When in the book, there's the man that travels to want to be a partner, in the firm, and he burns all bridges to just say, like, I want to be involved. And over time, that's exactly what happens, because he stuck to his guns and he was focused. And I see you in that regard. But that's my perspective. I'd like to hear from you as you share with our audience. What has that been like in terms of education versus the education that young people get from school or college?
It's more of this education that I've received versus the education that I received in uni. I can say that without getting this information I've gotten with you going to uni is a bit pointless. And I say that because if you can't find out or you can't pinpoint who you are as a person, then how could you make life and career goals? So I had things that I wanted to do when I was younger. I wanted to be an automotive engineer. I wanted to build engines, all that kind of stuff. And that's what I wanted to do. But because I didn't know myself and I started finding myself along the way, I realized that it's more of a hobby than me wanting to go and spend my life working for someone else.
Wow.
But it's not even just working for someone else, but spend my life building engines for someone else. If I build them for myself, it's fine. But for someone else, I don't know.
Wow.
So yeah, I had to find out who exactly Nathaniel is and what does Nathaniel do and how do I do things. And you taught me a lot about how I do things. I didn't even realize I did. So I was able to identify. It took some time, still taking some time, but they've been adjusting and changing over the years to be a more, a better version of what I was, or the best version of what I can be.
Yeah, and we've had some, it's been turbulent, let's keep it real. And in one of those turbulent moments, and when I say turbulent, is that, as you know, I'm an investor in people. And so there was one point where I made some investments in you, and based on you not knowing who you were, they went to the left.
Yeah.
And you know, and I lost money, and I don't like losing money. But more than losing the money, we found something. What we found is that you came to realize in a way that there's no other way that you could have learned this lesson. You learned that there were aspects of yourself that you didn't like.
Yeah.
You made a decision. I don't like this Nathaniel. I want to make and create another Nathaniel. And I'm touching on this because out of all of the people that I've mentored over almost 3 decades, as young as you were, you demonstrated something that I have hardly seen. You see, it doesn't matter what happens to you. And when I say you, I'm talking about all of us, ladies and gentlemen. What matters is how you respond to what happens. Meaning, if we know that we've messed up, what do? Do we say sorry and walk away? Or do we say, I messed up. I'm going to take responsibility for my mess up. And I'm going to clean up that mess, however long it takes. Now, that's a man's move right there. And that's what you did. And from when you made that move, you gained my respect big time. And so I'm like, cool. I let it slide. Well, didn't let it slide, but you stepped up and you were man about it, and you began to work, and it was an opportunity because of what had gone on. You demonstrated, you had the opportunity on a daily basis to demonstrate, I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna make this thing work. And here we are today, and you play a key role in my business in terms of mentoring and coaching, and in the wider aspect of things in terms of the vision that we now all share in terms of the R.I.C.H Society. Again, you are playing a major role in that too. How does that make you feel? I.e., the guy that once upon a time was unemployable, now everybody's calling you to, can you fix this now? Can you do this? Based on the skills that you've learned over the 8 years.
If I'm honest, I don't actually take a lot of time and reflect on that. I probably should, but the reason why I don't is because I keep wanting to be the better version or the best me. So I just keep moving forward. So,
yeah, but that's why I'm asking you the question now, because you also know that it's good to pause at some points in time, because otherwise we just keep going and we don't actually rejoice and celebrate ourselves. So I'm bringing it to you now. Take a moment.
yeah, I guess it feels good. It's a good responsibility to have, to go from not wanting to be around yourself to people calling you and asking you for help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, would you not say it's a demonstration of how much you've grown?
Yeah.
In ways that I don't know if formal education could give you the skills that you've acquired.
I mean, no, because they weren't really teaching me how to be the best version of myself. They were teaching me how to work for someone else in the mindset that I had. And if the mindset that I had, I wouldn't be working for someone else very long.
Right. Okay. Because you'd get fired, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, wow. And of course, we had that discussion when we were talking about, because I supported you to go to uni, and then halfway through you're like, I need to bail out, and we had that long conversation where you broke it down. I was trying to argue with you, to get you back into uni, because I got a degree in architecture, and I was like, the last thing I want is your father coming and saying to me, hey, look what you have done to my son, he's come out, he left uni. So I didn't want that. But when you broke it down, eventually I realized that what you were saying made perfect sense, in that uni doesn't teach you how to be the best version. And you were learning more in our company, meeting people who were really successful, running multi-million pound companies, and they knew you by name, they liked you, they respected you, they saw who you were. You don't get those kind of links going to uni, do you?
Not that I know of, not straight away. No.
And you've got all kind of cheeky perks. You know, all of my recordings with my billionaire mentor, you get insight. So you're like, oh yeah, he's my mentor too, because you get to listen and get all the
Inadvertently,
yeah.
He was mentoring me too.
Yeah, so it's really, really good. So what would you say, what message would you give to any younger person listening in terms of if they had a sense of where they wanted to be in life, and whether or not having a mentor or coach is of any value?
It's interesting that you say that, because I'm gonna say the story and I'm gonna come back to what you said, because I recently got a personal trainer, and you know this because even though I know what to do in the gym, and I expressed this to you earlier in the week, the personal trainer just tweaked my form just a little bit, just that bit more, and it changed the workout completely. So if you can find someone who has more experience than you, and you know, like, and trust them, then even though you're really smart, they can just tweak it just a bit to make it that much different.
Yeah.
Remember you gave an example once. I can't remember when it was. You said if your wheels on your car is not aligned by 1 degree, 1 degree on a straight line is a totally different destination.
Yeah. If you go far enough, you'll find yourself in a completely different place.
Yeah. So I think a mentor is valuable in all aspects of your life, no matter how much you think you know, because that person can show you one thing that will change the way you do something or change the way you live. And that one thing could benefit you more than you would ever know.
Wow. That's really, really deep. I mean, coming from you, I really appreciate that. And it's just great to listen to you in this way, because when we first met, you couldn't even speak properly. And now here you are, speaking eloquently, intelligently. It's really, I'm proud to see who you're forming and becoming, and the love that you have for people in our community, and want to give of yourself to support other people. No, I know that it's one of the fastest ways to become successful is to help other people. So you've already got, you know, what, you're 20, this year you're 26,
25.
25. I keep saying,
Let's not get the 32 close now.
okay. So you're 25 this year, and you've already got 8 years of serving other people under your belt. It's just amazing, and that's great. I hope, ladies and gentlemen, that you've enjoyed listening to this young man speaking. It's not very often that we get an opportunity to hear from our young people and ask questions. So we're going to open up the floor now, and I'd like to invite Oni to join us, because I'm sure, I hope that our audience have some questions that you'd like to ask. But I think it would be true to say that from both these stories, as different and as diverse as they are, what they are both demonstrating is that there is a definite need for the Grow Personal Success thinking system as something that we encourage, and not only for our lives, but and for the lives of those around us. That Grow Personal Success thinking system, to begin to ask ourselves, how do we think, using the mind reset as the foundational introductory course? Because that's when you get to have that realness with yourself. The world has changed, ladies and gentlemen, and it's about understanding that the only way to be successful in this new paradigm is to have a mind reset, because it allows your head to connect with your heart, and then you're operating on a whole different frequency, as the stories have demonstrated. So, do we have any questions? Who would like to ask the first question? If you'd like to put your hand up or put something in the chat, I mean, let's make it interactive if we can, ladies and gentlemen. And so if you want to put your hands up and I'll invite you to speak, that would be wonderful. Okay, so, okay, I think you have just wowed everyone, gentlemen. So, Oni, I mean, you listening to Natty, let's start here, and then I believe that the questions will be stimulated. Listening to Natty, is there a question that you'd like to ask, or you'd like to ask of each other? I remember when you first was introduced to Natty and you saw how he worked, it reminded you of yourself in many respects.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because it took me, I think, it took a little while for me and Natty to sort of get into more of a conversational. Well, I think once we realized, when we had that conversation, we was like, we're kind of like, and we've had the same experience with you, innit?
Right.
So,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? Like, our experiences are identical, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, rah, he told me the same thing, you know what I mean? Like, so, you know, I'm like very happy in terms of when I hear Natty's story, because I feel like he's caught it when I didn't catch it.
Right, right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hear you. Yes, I totally hear you.
Yeah.
And
So
and it's
that
great
gives
to
me a lot
see.
of a joy, because I'm like, yeah, you're, you know, and I've said it to him as well. And, you know, the people that are around him, like, you know, he mentors a guy that I've spoken to. And I'm just so happy that, right, you know what, you guys have got the foresight to catch on to, you know, this information.
Yeah. But he paid the price, in terms of it's commitment, you know.
Yeah.
And when I see that we've created that ripple effect, in that there are a bunch of guys around Natty who look up to him as
Yeah.
their mentor,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is, I mean, that is just amazing, because that's how we're going to make the difference in our community. I'm working with one person and he's now working with a bunch of people, and that's how we create the ripple effect. But
And as I said to you yesterday, sorry to cut you, as I said to you yesterday, even that, I'm doing a course, a trading course now, which directly came as a result of me talking with Natty, the guy he mentors, and then I spoke back with Natty, and now I'm doing that course. You know what I'm saying? So, and it just shows as well that, you know, I'm older than them guys, but I'm not. I'm always, anybody that can teach me anything, I'm always is. I'm not, you
yeah,
know.
and that's a big challenge for many adults, unfortunately, because the ego gets in the way and they look at, how young the person is and say, he can't teach me nothing, which is a big mistake. As you know, I surround myself with young people because I caught on early. That's where it's at.
Yeah, yeah,
Both Natty and Chris introduced me to crypto, and I'm going through some stuff right now. And I would be completely stressed out if I didn't have young cats around me. So that's never going to change. Like, I'm already on the lookout for my next protege, because they understand the world in a different way. Classic example, I was trying to do something earlier on in the week, and I was trying to find, because I'm working on my second edition of the book based on a project that you brought to me. I mean, that's another example. That's classic. Look, both you and Chris were having a conversation, and you guys, the younger guys, bring a project to me that you would like me to do. Do you see my point? I haven't thought of that. So I'm now looking for my manuscript, and I'm searching for like an hour and a half, getting frustrated, stressed out, like, I can't find this thing. But I've got to a point now, actually, I don't even let it get to that stage. It's usually about 15 minutes. If it ain't working, I'm gonna call I'm gonna call the young cats and say, listen, this is my problem. Can you fix it? And he'll be like, yeah. He came in the office the next day. It must have been about 15 minutes.
I just took the extra 10 minutes to make sure.
See what I'm saying? 5 minutes. So my thing is, why would I stress myself out trying to figure out things when I got young cats around me that they can teach me that stuff? Do you see my point? So rather than trying to struggle with it, they just come and they just show me,
yeah.
and I can reciprocate, because then I can show them stuff where life is concerned or where wisdom is concerned. Natty, you want to say something?
Yeah, it's funny about what you said earlier, Michael, about the guy that I mentored. When I first started mentoring him, he was like, "Oh, Nathaniel, you know so much." Da, 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 da. I said, no, I'm teaching you because one day you're gonna teach me. And he was like, "Nah, no way." Da, da, da. He's now teaching me how to different ways and how you can leverage certain amounts of money to trade crypto. And when you trade a certain crypto, it can actualize into Bitcoin. So I said, "What? Involve me." So I'm utilizing the same trading skill that I taught him and my own trading edge to then trade to make Bitcoin. Okay.
Wow, look at
After that.
and this is how it goes. It's really, really amazing, powerful stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't keep the gentlemen hanging. They've made themselves available this evening. You must have a question because we don't get this very often where you get two guys from different age spectrums coming up and just being open, available, and spitting game like this today. So, okay. Okay, so someone says each one teach one, but I guess you have to be ready to learn and be teachable. What made you humble enough to be teachable? And who's that question directed to?
For both of us, I could answer first if you want.
Both. Okay.
So, what made me humble enough to be teachable was Uncle T. Because I remember when you didn't used to know something, and I used to be like, "How did you not know that?" And I used to laugh, and you used to look at me like, "Why are you laughing?" Do you remember?
Of course I do.
And it took a while to sink in, but it was like, raw. Because remember you said to me, "What if I laughed at you and you didn't know something?" Because there's loads of things I don't know. So what if I laughed at you and you didn't know something? I just left you to not know. And I was like, yeah, you're kind of right. So I just took a stance of, if I'm not willing to listen or if I'm not willing to share without criticizing, then you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah. But I think that the question predates that and is actually saying at the very beginning, what made you humble enough to be teachable, to come under my pupillage? I think that's what the question is really.
Then I was in a shitty situation. Come on.
Okay, that's basically that's what I wanted. I think that's what they wanted to hear. And the point is, and it's great that the question has been asked because we should all think about this. What I have asked myself over the decades is, why is it that we like to, or we tend to wait till our back is right up against the wall before we make ourselves available to be teachable? It's just a question. Because it doesn't have to be like that. And that's really what I'm trying to encourage. And that we just make that as part of our new way of being and thinking, that this is just how I'm supposed to be. Get those insights. Only the question directed to you. What made you, I mean, you mentioned it, but just for the question asked, this second time around, what made you humble enough to be teachable?
I I believe you know what it is? I had to just get out of my own way. Can I just say like that? I had to get out of my own way. I've always been somebody who, was teachable. Like my dad used to say to me, he always used to say to me, because I was quite argumentative when I was young. So he used to say to me, obey first, argue last. And I used to think, what's he talking about? What do you mean? I don't need to obey anything. You know what I mean? I'm arguing my point. But the point I was making is that, listen, if somebody's trying to teach you something, well, be humble enough to listen to it. If it doesn't work, then you have a case to bring to them. But if you're bringing the case and you ain't even tried what they're telling you, you know what I mean? You're just barking up the wrong tree. So for me, and this situation that I was in, as I said, I just got fed up of myself, and I just like, you know what, I need to. I said to you that day, I said, Tony, I just want to be a student again. Like, come, let's do this, innit? Like,
Yeah.
and that was And I would say the reason being that we're like that as well is that society paints this picture that some people are superheroes. So I'm a person, I'm, been into the whole music thing and that. And so you might see a Jay-Z, you might see a Diddy, and you think all these people are so like brilliant that they do things themselves. So that's the picture the world paints to young people. Oh, this guy's built a 500 million company by himself, but he hasn't done it by himself. He ain't showed you the rest of the team or his mentors or the people that he goes to for counsel. But we think, oh yeah, I want to be the next Diddy. But so to be the next Diddy or the next Jay-Z or the next whoever, Elon Musk or whatever, do you know what type of counsel that they've got around you? But that's not shown to us. You know what I'm saying? It's only now, recently, people are coming out. Those same, top guys are saying, this is who I go to for mentoring. This is who I go to for counsel. This is who when things are looking hazy, this is who I go and consult. And so now it's starting to be a thing in the, with well, certainly within the music community around young black people, musicians, that they're now seeking mentorship is now becoming a thing now.
Yeah, because young people are breaking from the past and realizing that we need to find a new way. So on that subject, someone's asked the question, spirituality has been mentioned. I wanted to hear more about how things in your life has changed as you've all explored a deeper spiritual connection. Well, I mean, I'll give you each the opportunity to give further illustrations, but I think if you've been really listening, you'll hear that what I've heard is that almost every aspect of your lives have changed and altered and grown as a result of your spirituality. But that's just my experience of both of you. But the question is directed to you. So who'd like to take it?
I'll go first.
Okay.
In terms of spiritually, I had to understand where I stood with life. And I only really began to understand more about spirituality through Brother Ishmael, because he says some things that just blow my mind. Like he says, uh, if you study nature, then you study life. But nature is, how can I explain it in the best way? Nature is not dependent on anything, but it all works together. So in terms of spirituality, it's not something that you can see, but I'm beginning to come to the awareness that spirituality is more of a connection with your inner self and people.
Right. And so when I first met you, you didn't have that connection with yourself or with people. However, I saw something pure, innocent, and genuine within you, and something that was worth nurturing, because we've talked about it in time past, but really what brought you to me was your soul.
Yeah.
There was a deeper awareness that was beyond your thinking that communicated with me on that day. And I heard that soul cry. And that's why I said, yes, let's do this. And through the years that I've been working, because I've seen it and because I've directed your attention to it, you eventually began to see it and began to respect it and then began to appreciate it. And now it's literally an important aspect of your life, just like as Oni was saying.
Yeah. So through understanding that better, I understood my emotions better. My emotions are energy in motion. Where you put your energy and how you put your energy into something, what you would reap. So that leaked into relationships, that leaked into money, that leaked into when I say relationships, I mean like home relationships. So I now speak to more family that I grew up back home with in St. Lucia. I communicate with my aunties a lot more. I call my uncles a lot more because I just have a new appreciation for one, what they did for me that I didn't realize, and just me wanting to be sound inside. when I say inside, I mean inside of myself, because I feel like there's a thing that I want to give back, and it's more than just physical. I have to give my essence back.
Yeah, it's beautiful to hear you say it. I just love it. And
So I call my dad occasionally, and we chop it up because we didn't speak for quite some time after I moved out of home.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I moved out of home when I was 20,
yeah,
25 now.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, and that was a journey in itself. And had we not met, and had you not been learning, then you wouldn't have had the confidence to make that move for sure.
no, it was more of a, I don't want to say rich dad poor dad situation, but it's like that. I had a rich dad poor dad situation before you introduced me to the book.
Yeah, meaning between, when you say rich dad situation, you mean between who and who?
Between you and my dad.
Right.
So if anyone's read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's about a 9-year-old kid who has a dad that wants him to work, and then he meets this guy that runs a company. Funny enough, and he's like, he wanted you to value the time more than the money more. That's what he used to tell me. He used to tell me money is everywhere. I'm like, well, I'm looking. But you have to be, it's a different wavelength you have to operate in if the money's gonna come to you. It is everywhere, but yeah.
Wow. Oni, what you want to say on that, my brother? The question I asked to you. Spirituality.
Yeah, spirituality. You know what it is with me? I had to learn to trust God more. I had to learn. I didn't even know how to trust God. If that makes sense, I didn't know how to trust God, life, the universe. I had lost the way to do it, and because as Natty said, it's the unseen. So trust is not something you see. It's something, that you have to feel, something that you have to connect with, invisibly. And I had to learn to do that and trust life, and like you said, what you give into life, life gives back to you. So if you don't trust life, if you don't trust the Most High, well, you can't expect any favors because you don't trust them. So why would you, expect anything from the universe? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I had to learn to trust.
Wow. And so trust makes you vulnerable. Trust makes you be open. And that's what you had to do. So I hope that answers the question. I've got another question that says, Nathaniel, do you think mentor should be more widely available to young people as alternative to higher education?
I wouldn't say as on an alternative because not everyone. Hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't say as
When we say alternative, we're saying in addition to.
no, that's not alternative. Means
No, as a different way.
yeah. I think higher education is needed because not everyone is going to be open to having a mentor or taking the path that I took. There are mentoring. What I do think is that mentoring in schools do need to be improved based on a specific type of person. Because when I was in school, there were mentors, but they were just generic people.
Yeah. So I've just looked up the word alternative, and it does mean available as another possibility or choice.
Oh,
So just thought I'd let you know.
okay.
So that's really what we're saying, is that in addition to what exists, should this be something that's also offered?
Yeah, yeah. I think it should be more along the lines of, funny enough, the 5 pillar system. So there should be a mental mentor. So that could be the person you go to express any issues that you have, and there is that in schools. There should be a spiritual mentor. Haven't seen many of those in schools, and I don't mean spiritual as in they have to have a type of religion, but they need to have a certain uh, piece that you can go to express what you're going through. Uh, there should be a money mentor in schools because they ain't teaching none of that in school. I had to learn about money in school myself through selling juices and biscuits. A relationships mentor and a physical mentor.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
So
they definitely should be. They definitely should be. Because I think naturally, like young men, they go and find mentors, whether that's somebody in the drug game, somebody doing something. You don't call it a mentor, but you go and find somebody who can bring you, who can make you sell more on the street, who can make you do more of this. So we naturally do it, but it's not told to us in the sense that, you know what, actually you need to find a mentor that will lead you down the right path of life.
or a mentor that will actually help you grow you.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Because a lot of the young cats, they'll go out on road and they're, as you say, they find a mentor, someone to show them how to make money. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't care how they make that money.
No.
Yeah. And
So
that's not the kind of mentor you want.
nah, you know what I mean, you know. So I think I actually think more than anything, it's actually a natural thing in us to find somebody who can teach us something. It's what is it that they're teaching us though?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I guess there's also something to be said about the parents, because if the relationship is such that the young person, so I remember having this conversation with parents, and you know, because you've been around my boy for the longest time, and I was teaching him about financial literacy from the age of 5, and a lot of adults and parents were saying that I was off key talking to my son about money. I'm like, but he's thinking about it. So because they are thinking about it, but if they don't feel like they can talk to you about it, they'll just think about it and go and talk to somebody else about it. So why don't I show him? And we had that conversation, and within 12 months, he, as you know, the story, made his first product and made, you know, his first £50 note, but has gone on to doing all kinds of things where money is concerned, making money, creating ideas, starting a business, and all those kind of things. And it's all born out of the relationship that we had, that openness. And the point being that from when my children turned into their early teens, I kind of moved from parenting to mentoring and coaching, and just as best as I could, providing them what they need. Because if you don't, well, then they're going to go out and get it somewhere else. And it might not be on favorable terms.
Definitely. Well,
Now,
you can see,
want to add something? Or
mentorship on the street.
say that again?
I said you can see by the statistics of the mentorship that happens on the street.
When you say statistics, are you referring to fatalities?
Fatalities, jail, you know what I mean? Like that's the mentorship that is more prominent, you know.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate. I was having a conversation with my son the other day, and he was like, you know, it's kind of almost in some quarters, it's almost standard. Like from the ages of between like 15 to 25, if someone goes missing, they just know that, you know, they were doing something on road and they got captured and they're doing time. And it's almost expected. And I say that because when my son went away to America and came back 7 years later, a bunch of his friends was like, "Oh, I thought he was in jail," because that's the standard thing.
You know what I'm saying? It's just, you know what I mean? And yeah, we need to bring about change still.
And this is, I'm glad that you said that, because that's exactly what we're doing. It starts right here. So seeing that both of you are not keeping this for yourself, only you've mentioned it to some of the people in your circle in terms of, look, this is what I'm doing, this is what has benefited me. Natty, you're passing it on, the things that you've learned, sharing with others. This is how we start that chain reaction. This is how we get the momentum moving and making a difference within our community through that ripple effect. So it's pretty awesome. Okay, so I'm mindful of time. I'm going to ask and see if there are a couple more questions that we want to take. But we have an early start tomorrow. So for those of you who are in the book club, the book study club, Micheal, you are so right. Mentorship is already taking place in our community, but not in the way that serves our growth. So that's what we really want to disrupt. And it demonstrates that there's an amazing golden opportunity in front of us, those who want to reap the benefits of serving in this way, because we have a particular kind of situation in our community, one that no one else outside of our communities can really understand or relate to. That puts you in a unique position. Only when you're speaking to Natty as a younger, and you can build up that rapport, that's because there's a certain culture that you understand, that you can both relate to, that someone outside of that culture would struggle to. And that's something that we should be using to our advantage. Natty, did you want to say something?
No.
Cool. So, are there any kind of last questions, ladies and gentlemen? Otherwise, we go and wrap it up. It's been really, really insightful. All right, as we begin to bring this to a close, Natty, is there any kind of closing remark or comment that you would like to leave our guests with, our listeners with, as a part of today's conversation?
Nothing that comes to mind. No.
No.
Wish there were more questions. I've got all this information. I don't know what to do with it. But
Well, I mean, we put it out there, but people are going shy on you. I'm checking, and I don't see any hands raised. I'd love to, because this doesn't happen every day, ladies and gentlemen. So you should be putting your hands up.
Yeah, I don't like being on camera.
Okay. Oh, you like being on camera now?
Oh,
you don't like being on camera. Okay. So okay. So I think the question about an alternative to higher education was posed by Suzette. And it's, sorry, I've got a question. Mentoring includes the real meaning of education, educate to draw out. Yes. And Shawnette says, I like the growth in your spiritual walk, Micheal. Yeah, it's been pretty awesome.
Can I big up Shawnette as well? Because I've never ever met Shawnette, and the good thing about this Rich Club is, I asked her for something, and she sends me scriptures, she sends me insights, Bible talk, like she sends me stuff that, and so on your walk in it, you're gonna meet people. You may never even meet them, but it's not even the relevant thing. It's not the most important thing. The fact that she can send me, like, I can show you, she sends me, like, every week, Shawnette sends me a scripture or something.
Wow.
And so I'm saying thank you, Shawnette. Yeah, thank you very much.
Wow, that's fantastic. So I think this is also coming from Shawnette. I'm not sure. She says, Natty, I admire you as a young man and your maturity. Yeah. Okay, so there's a lot of love being flowing in the group today. So you guys are obviously making an impression, which is, what we wanted to share by being open. So I feel you. Okay, so I think we are virtually done today. It's been a real good conversation, really insightful. Thank you both for being around for so long. Like, I think, Natty, you've got the record, and in terms of, we've known each other for so long, and you're still around. But I think Natty definitely has got the title in terms of the guy that's being there, like, constant, and now is in a place where he's able to give back to you and also invest in others. It's great to see. So I think Suzette says, love the energy from the three of you. It's been great. So next week, we're going to continue. I won't tell you who the guest is going to be, but it's going to be, nevertheless, undoubtedly, it's going to be fantastic. So on that note, I'll give you both the opportunity to say your one-liners and good nights, and we'll close out. Natty, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Cool. And Oni, it's been a real pleasure, my man, as always.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to say, you know, on live here, as I was saying to Tony yesterday, I'm going to say it to him as well again today. You know, we must give our people their flowers, and thank you for being in my corner all these years, even when I've been, you know what I mean? Even a few months ago, I was still shaky, but you've always been there. You've always supported me, and I appreciate it, and I thank you. Love you very much for that. And yeah, man, you know, God will bless you and your family and your home and your business and everything that you're doing. And we're gonna do more great things. Yeah.
Wow. I appreciate that. Thank you, my man. And I'd like to say that, you know, it's a blessing to be able to invest in and see the blossoming of your lives and the wider community, the R.I.C.H Society. You know, what I've come to realize as a result of being blessed to have the opportunity to engage with you and people like you is that I definitely believe that there is a transformation taking place, you know, and there's a certain type of person that resonates with what we're doing. We don't have to be hundreds and thousands of people within the community, because it's not about that. You know, there is a certain type of person that is drawn to this message. And I was saying this to someone just recently, you know, and it talks about it in Matthew 10, verse 6, and it talks about that it's not everybody that this message is for. It's for those people who are consciously aware and they want to key into that message that brings about new life. You know, nothing, you didn't, Oni and Natty, you didn't up and move from one city to another city. You didn't go from one country to another country. You stayed in exactly the same location that you was in, but yet there was a transformation. And that is really what's going on here. It's spiritual. It's on another level. And it's whether we are able to tune into that. What do you want to say, Natty?
So I was just saying, and the shift of environment.
And the shift in environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if that's what you're about, then we're really excited about the Grow Personal Success program. Where I'm taking a new intake. We only have about, I think, 5 places available. But more important than that, if that's not right for you at this moment in time, definitely the Mind Reset. If you haven't stepped to it, it's a great opportunity for you to just get sharp on your vision and your goals. So on that note, I close out. I appreciate that you both demonstrate real change of mindset, which is great. And Pastifa says, thank you both for being mentors in the community. It is needed for the teenagers in the community. It's needed. So it's upon all of us to step up. Who's going to step up is the question. We know what's needed, but who's going to step up? That's the question that needs to be asked. Are you? Because if you could, then that's when we get the difference happening. So on that note, thank you all. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's been insightful. Until next week, it's me, Tony DADA, your soul purpose coach, saying enough love. Bye for now.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.